good fresca. Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not hoping in vain for 2021 to at least be better than 2020 and setting myself up for more devastating disappointment, I'm here at the Wolfula reviewing movies. It's been a month since my last movie review. Super sorry about that. The weeks during and after Christmas are a foggy blur of eggnog and sadness. Anywho, the last time I made a reasonably popular video on the channel was my Halloween reviews in October, so smart money is that I should review a 40-year-old Halloween ripoff nobody has heard of. In this case, the Halloween ripoff is Terror Train. Now, Halloween ripoff might sound strong, but it's what the makers of the film said Terror Train was supposed to be. 1980 was a busy year for Halloween ripoffs. The year 1979 is pretty much when the slasher boom was kicking off in the wake of Halloween's unexpected success as an indie film in late 1978. Slasher films were low-risk, high-reward ventures as indie movies, so it seemed like every low-budget production company was trying to take a stab at the newly trendy subgenre with a wave of greenlit pictures shooting in 79 and releasing in 1980 films like Friday the 13th, Prom Night, and of course, Terror Train. Two of these films even starring Jamie Lee Curtis in an attempt to fully replicate Halloween's formula. Both Terror Train and Prom Night were even shot in Canada as a tax shelter to save even more money, but unlike Halloween, Terror Train and Prom Night were made for over $1 million each, and in Terror Train's case, it was snatched up by 20th Century Fox for theatrical release, fresh off the company's runaway successes with Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. Fox was a strange home for a film like Terror Train, and they advertised it hard, spending $5 million just to get the word out, which is very counterintuitive. The whole point of a slasher movie is you don't spend a lot of money, and you get a whole lot more money back. With Terror Train, they spent $3.5 million making the movie and $5 million advertising it, and ended up only making $8 million at the box office, less than what they spent. It should be no surprise then that Terror Train was Fox's only foray into slasher films, but who knows? Maybe now that Fox is owned by Disney, we'll get some new slasher movies. Anyway, just because the makers of Terror Train were bad at business, that doesn't mean they aren't good at making a reasonably entertaining slasher film, right? Right? Let's find out with my review of Terror Train. For some reason, most early slasher films couldn't also copy Halloween's and Black Christmas's less is more approach and really overthink the killer's backstory instead, making the killer's origin an unrelatable scenario and their motivations for killing people hyper-specific. Terror Train is no different. The film begins on a New Year's Eve, and yeah, that's why I chose this movie to review first this year, but let's pretend that's not the reason, because January is almost over as of this video's upload. A nerdy fraternity pledge named Kenny Hampson is promised that he's gonna get laid by a totally real woman who is absolutely turned on by a feminine, gangly boy man.
Chicks go for the sensitive fellas,
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mind going in your place.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you, you devil?
This supposed liaison is set up by the big man on campus, Doc Manley, which was my porn star name back in the 70s, and much like me, this Doc has a thing for pranks involving stolen body parts. More on that later.
Is that real?
The girl Kenny believes he's gonna be shallow-dicking is Elena Maxwell, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, but as Jamie Kennedy once pointed out, Trading Places was still 3 years away, so there was no way Jamie Lee Curtis was gonna be showing her tits, let alone doing no sex scenes yet. So when Kenny enters the dark dorm room expecting to soon enter Jamie, he's greeted by a shadowy figure he's led to believe is Elena, so he in turn strips down to his... is that a diaper?
Don't be shy. This is my first time, too.
So Kenny is prepared to get his first hand job, but unfortunately, the hands aren't connected to his date's body. Yeah, Doc set Kenny up with a mutilated corpse, but it could be worse. He could be fucking Gwyneth Paltrow. There's worse pussy out there. Still, this shocking moment causes Kenny to do a PTSD ballerina twirl over the corpse while everyone laughs at him. Honestly, it is pretty funny. I don't know why Jamie isn't laughing. Doc should have his own prank show on YouTube. He's less sociopathic than Logan Paul. 3 years pass, and it's New Year's once more, and you'd think all the students involved with that stunt a few years ago would be expelled from college and most likely also incarcerated. But desecrating a human corpse to spook a nerd is pretty tame by fraternity standards. At least nobody ended up putting their dick in the corpse, as far as we know. Well, the New Year's party this year is a Halloween costume masquerade. Honestly, with the costumes and the undercurrent of April Fool's-like pranks in the plot, I think the holiday this film was going with was totally up in the air until they settled on New Year's Eve. Even though Terror Train released in October, hey though, they beat a movie actually called New Year's Evil by 2 months at at least. Well, anyway, the film isn't called Terror New Year, it's called Terror Train, so it goes without saying the New Year's party takes place on a choo-choo, another passenger of which is a magician, but not just any magician, David fucking Copperfield. Having David Copperfield in your cast is guaranteed to put your horror movie on the map.
You do this for all your fans?
No, this is my first time, Elena.
This is actually David Copperfield's first ever film appearance, and the only one where he doesn't explicitly play himself, but even though his character is simply called the Magician in the credits, it's a pretty safe bet that he's just playing himself.
Well, it beats a 6-year-old's birthday party.
I have to have it quiet when I do my illusions.
I know you guys might also think they got Groucho Marx for this movie, but it's actually just Andy Samberg, unfortunately.
Come on, look at me! Just my luck, she's a lesbian.
But thankfully, he's the first person killed, stripped of his costume, and as the choo-choo departs the station, any possibility that Andy Samberg survived his wounds is crushed beneath 40 tons of cold steel. From here, Terror Train operates in full slasher mode, but with an interesting setting and modus operandi for the killer. The choo-choo is this cramped and closed environment that's packed with people, but certain cars leave plenty of room and dark spaces for a killer to hide. The killer of the film himself is in disguise and right at home in this costume party, able to hide in plain sight and take advantage of the trust he's given due to the mistaken identity.
But I know who gave it to you. Somebody else is looking for you.
There's a really solid building of suspense in the early stages of the film because, unusually, you know where the killer is most of the time, and not only that, he's right fucking next to the person he's gonna kill next. He's just biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike. The killer isn't static in this movie either. He doesn't just dress up as Groucho Marx for the whole film.
I've got the good stuff, man.
His victims are in costume, so he'll in turn adopt their personas to continually throw people off his trail. It's a really solid concept for a slasher movie, but it doesn't really play with the underlying idea much. After it's been established that the killer switches costumes, this could have been an opportunity to keep the audience on its toes, where at a certain point, maybe even the audience is kept in the dark about who the killer might be dressed as in the crowd of costumes, but no, the idea peaks really early and doesn't reach its full potential.
We are going to be remembered forever for this moment.
A central issue with Terror Train, though, is with the characters. Now, slasher movie characters generally aren't all that likable and don't have a ton of depth to make them interesting, but they can usually hold your attention enough between chases and kills. Terror Train puts itself at a massive disadvantage from the start by establishing that its central cast of characters are unrelatable sociopaths. What they do in the opening sequence is worse than anything the killer actually does in the movie, and at least he's acting out of revenge. The fraternity just did that fucked up shit for their own amusement.
It was supposed to be a simple joke, and it sort of got out of control one year, that's all. Just forget about it.
Kenny the Killer is made even more sympathetic than the main characters because it's revealed that he suffered from mental illness and PTSD related to a death he accidentally caused at a young age.
They said he killed somebody before. And they said it might have been an accident, but he killed somebody.
The prank ended up further shattering Kenny's psyche. So, unfortunately, it's really hard to get invested in Terror Train because the characters are so shitty. Without feeling any connection to what's happening in the movie, Terror Train has a lot of stretches where it's just a bit of a snooze fest. Which is why I think they added fucking David Copperfield to the cast, so they could have a dude doing magic tricks every other scene so something at least interesting could be going on. Besides just being hired entertainment in a movie that should just be entertaining by itself, David Copperfield also acts as the red herring in the film, where he has a rivalry with Doc the Jock, and Kenny was even revealed to have been interested in magic, so you're led to believe that David Copperfield is the killer, I guess, and that somehow this dude turned into David Copperfield in 3 years with the help of a Scooby-Doo mask or something.
They're not gonna watch.
Oh, they'll watch. Go out and do some close-up magic.
There's a slight Murder on the Orient Express whodunit aspect of the film that just isn't really done well either. I think the writers of the film were hoping that people would be thinking that Kenny was the actual red herring in the film and expecting some big reveal of the actual killer.
Are you sure you won't go with us, Maggie?
With a bunch like that? Not on your life.
The only source of likability in the film comes from the choo-choo's conductor, played by Ben Johnson, a veteran of cowboy movies who a decent amount of the film centers around. The conductor is a genuinely nice dude who is really accommodating to the rowdy guests on the choo-choo and is more amused by them than put off by them.
Jack of Hearts.
Not only has it risen to the top of the deck, but now it has become Jack of Spades.
The Conductor even has a backstory. He runs an unsuccessful RV dealership, but is forced to supplement his income by running the choo-choo.
How is the RV business these days?
How the hell do you think it is? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't up to my hind end in inventory.
Through the crew aboard the train, the film also tackles the waning use of train travel, now nothing more than a novelty for frat houses to watch shitty magic acts inside.
When's the last time somebody built a shopping mall next to a train station? Think about that.
It's very interesting material to explore, but the workers on the choo-choo aren't the focus of this movie. I know more about the Conductor than I do about Jamie Lee Curtis's character. The killer isn't gonna have any interest in murdering the guy who shovels coal. Why are we told so much about his misplaced optimism in the future of the train industry?
You're gonna see a train on the cover of Time magazine one of these days. And I'm gonna be in that cab in the picture.
The Conductor is even made aware of the killings before any of the primary cast members, discovering a body in the bathroom, but then returning to it to find the killer masquerading as the dead dude, seemingly drunk.
There was blood there before. I could have sworn it.
So I guess the killer of the movie is also a bit of a gaslighter. The choo-choo itself is the main star of Terror Train. I mean, train is in the title, and who doesn't like to ride the choo-choo? To save money on building sets for the film, most of Terror Train is actually shot on a real train, which is pretty impressive considering how cramped the space must have been. There'd barely be enough room for all the actors, then you have to factor in all the bulky camera equipment and the film's crew, and it must have been a nightmare to shoot, especially considering production ended literally the day before Christmas Eve. Also, for whatever reason, Stanley Kubrick's go-to cinematographer, John Alcott, who shot such films as Barry Lyndon and The Shining, decided to work on Terror Train, so the film looks great, despite the prints on home video being a bit weathered. The really amazing part of the film's cinematography is how they solved lighting on the choo-choo. There's very little space in the train cars for lighting equipment, so all the train's built-in lights and their wiring were removed and replaced with a robust lighting system using a variety of bulbs and dimmers that could create different looks throughout the train, streamlining the entire lighting process.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I'm going to be chatting about the finale of Terror Train now, so if you haven't seen the film yet and don't want spoilers, you've been warned. Near the end, Elena, Doc, and the Conductor discovers some of the other passengers are dead. So the train is stopped and everyone is escorted out into the snow, but Elena and Doc realize the killer must be Kenny. So Doc has the brilliant idea of trapping himself back on the choo-choo, but Elena realizes this isn't the place for a survivor girl to be, so she leaves Doc to die off screen.
It's a joke. A goddamn practical joke.
Yeah, he was the main dude Kenny wanted dead, and we don't even get to see how it happens. Well, we do get to see a cool decapitated head at least. Later, Elena has an encounter with the killer doing a bad cosplay of the Crypt Keeper, but she manages to nail the guy. The choo-choo continues its journey despite all of the murders still going on because, hey, it's not like the dude can kill everybody on the train. I mean, sure, the killer murdered the one black dude on board, but of course the black dude got killed. Kenny didn't even have a problem with the guy, but it's a slasher movie. He had to die anyway. Shit gets real, though, when even David Copperfield, the only slightly entertaining thing in the movie, is found dead inside his sword box. Little trivia, to achieve this trick, they killed David Copperfield for real, and the Copperfield that's been running around since was a doppelganger hired by the movie's producers. Shh! Don't tell anybody. After another close call, Elena returns to the warm hands of the Conductor, staring at his kind, smiling, transparent face. Hey, wait a second, that's Kenny! In a really questionable twist, though, it's also revealed that Kenny was David Copperfield's femboy assistant the whole time, which kinda feels unnecessary. I think they were hoping it would be mind-blowing that Kenny was present in the film unmasked without the audience knowing, but honestly, it's a little jarring and confusing. Why did Kenny even need to pretend to be David Copperfield's assistant? He already is disguised in the movie.
Hey, I should have used one of these. Yeah, this would have done. What do you think?
Terror Train's twist is kind of like Sleepaway Camp's ending, 3 years early, but, you know, without us having to see a dick, so it's better. Now that it's revealed that the magician's assistant is Kenny, looking like a goth girl without Snapchat filters on, Jamie Lee Curtis makes up for a year of trauma by giving Kenny his first kiss. Let's be real, though, David Copperfield probably fucked Kenny. Let's be real. The kiss causes Kenny to do another PTSD ballerina twirl, which has gotta hurt for Elena since the last last time he did this shit was with a dead body. The conductor arrives just in time to end this spaz attack by giving Kenny a face full of shovel, and the mentally ill man suffering from PTSD gets what he deserves, falling 100 feet off the train, cracking his head on some ice, and then drowning to death in sub-zero water. What a happy ending. And, yeah, the movie does just suddenly end there. There isn't even a fucking denouement. I mean, what happened with the conductor's failing RV business? The film just ends as soon as Kenny is dead. Well, alright then. Oh my god, they killed Kenny! You bastards! Well, that was Terror Train, and it's not a bad movie by any means, just not really all that interesting taken as a whole. There are interesting ideas scattered throughout, but none of them really seem to reach their true potential. Terror Train mostly feels notable for just being an early, post-Halloween slasher film that stars Jamie Lee Curtis, and if you're interested in the history of the slasher subgenre, this is the only reason to go out of your way to watch Terror Train. I give Terror Train an Andy Samberg out of Groucho Marx. Before I go, I'd like to thank We Release Whatever the Fuck We Want for sending me their releases of the Terror Vision and Troll soundtracks on vinyl. The sleeve artwork on these bad boys look fucking sick too. Give We Release Whatever the Fuck We Want a follow on social media and check out the catalog on their site. Link down below.
I liked your show.
I remember you. Do you believe in magic?
If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, journey further into the Wolfula by clicking the subscribe and bell buttons to find out when all of my latest videos and streams go live. This video was brought to you by my kind supporters on Patreon, whose names are scrolling by. Support the channel today on Patreon and get access to bonus movie and TV commentaries, audiobooks, comic readings, film live streams, and credits at the end of videos. Finally, I'd like to give a very special thanks to my true Wolfulite supporters on Patreon and my YouTube channel memberships for their pledges. Their support is greatly appreciated and helps the channel and my dark influence continue to grow. Thank you all once more from the bottom of my evil heart for your help. Alrighty, Dr. Wolfula signing out. See you all next time at the Wolfula.